All right. Welcome. So, this video is actually one that I've had planned for a very long time now. I wrote this script out for my podcast that I was going to create, but things didn't work out with that specific group of people, and that specific podcast didn't end up becoming started. So, this script, and I have a couple others, but this script and a couple others ended up just getting thrown on the back burner and forgotten about. But I was recently going through all of these old scripts, and I found this one, and I was looking through it, and I just decided it was way too good not to make a video on, not to give to you guys anyways. So this was originally supposed to be a podcast episode, but I'm just going to give it to you guys solo. But yeah, so semen retention, how to realize the power of your seed. So this is essentially a full in-depth guide on the entire process of semen retention, what it is from its origins, and what it is, what the purpose of it now is, and why it's so important. And then also we'll go into detail on how to actually do it, how to go about applying it to your life. So if you guys are interested in transforming your lives through self-improvement, through semen retention, go ahead and click the link in the description. I have 2 links now. The first one is to book a one-to-one call with me, and there we will talk about the coaching program and see if you're a fit for the coaching program. And the other link is for my Instagram, where you guys can DM me and we'll have the same conversation there. So if you'd like to DM me on Instagram, or if you'd like to hop straight on a call, either way, you can go ahead and use those links if you'd like to work with me one-on-one to transform your life through self-improvement. So what exactly is semen retention? So the way I'm going to teach you guys what semen retention is and explain what semen retention is, I'm going to go all the way back to the origins of humanity, at least one specific theory of the origins of humanity, which you can actually find on Glorian. If you look up Glorian on, you can either look at their website or their, they have a YouTube channel. So their YouTube channel, they have a video that covers this exact theory of human origins and this exact backstory of our human origins. So you can go check that out if you're interested in getting the complete story. But I'm just going to go over the important parts of the story that apply to semen retention. So originally, human beings never released. We never had orgasm. That was never a thing. They were completely and utterly chaste, right? And chaste does not mean that they are without sex. That means that they are sexually pure, right? Those are 2 very different things. Sexual purity is developed through a sexual relationship and through non-sexual relationships as well. So you can develop sexual purity from within, and you can also develop it within a relationship and within a sexual relationship specifically. So the way that this looks is sexual purity is not to just ignore sex, ignore the sexual desire, but rather to transform it and transmute it to match its highest expression, right? Because currently we are in a lowered state of sexual expression, which means we are expressing it on the lowest possible plane and therefore wasting it, essentially, right? And so I will get into this in a little bit. But originally humans never orgasmed. They were completely and utterly chaste. Lust was not a thing. Pain and suffering was not a thing, right? We did not experience suffering. We did not experience pain. We only experienced light, love, and life itself, right? Reality was never an experience of suffering, right? Samsara was created by the original sin, which we'll eventually get into, which was orgasm, right? So things like suffering and samsara, this cycle of life and death, was created by our sin of orgasm. And we committed this sin originally, and that's what got us to this current state that we're in. But we also continue to perform that same sin. We continue to act upon that same sin every single day, right? Humans are indulging this desire every single day. And so it's no wonder why we are continuously progressing in a negative direction, or so it seems, right? But the way that we save ourselves is through sexual purity, is through realizing our actual potential within and fully manifesting it externally. And the way we do this is by transmuting it to stop trying to express itself externally and to rather be expressed internally because that internal expression will eventually allow us to realize our full potential inside, and then that will then be reflected outside, right? So instead of just trying to push the energy out, which is what we are currently doing, we are sending the energy downwards and outwards. We bring it inwards and we cultivate it upwards instead. All right, so I don't know if you guys can hear that or not, but somebody's using some power tools upstairs. I don't know what it is. I thought it was a weed whacker at first. Then I thought it was a chainsaw. Then I checked outside. Nobody's outside. So I realized it's coming from upstairs. I don't know what they're doing up there. I don't know if they're cutting up a body or if they just got some woodwork to do, but somebody's using power tools above me. I'm sorry about it if you can hear it, but I've waited like 5-10 minutes hoping it would stop. I'm not trying to postpone this video anymore, so let's get to it. So I just finished talking about some of humanity's origins, but so we'll get into it. So the word Elohim is the true word for God, right? But that word truly means and truly represents gods and goddesses, right? So plural, but also meaning gods and goddesses. Elohim themselves, however, are gender fluid, or the right word for that is androgynous. So androgynous means they are both male, female. So instead of them having male and females of their species, they are simply one, right? So male, female, and when we start to understand the true purpose of sex and the true power behind sex, we realize that this means that they are virtually gods, right? So the word God itself was mistranslated for the word Elohim. The word should have said gods plural, not God singular. There was never one God, right? God simply means being, creator being, right? Creator being capable of creation. All of us, in that sense of the word, and by that definition, are gods, right? This is no ego. We are all like gods and we control reality, right? This is simply the fact that we as human beings, because we have creative potential and because we have the ability to evolve and ascend and access all levels of this reality, all realms within this reality, this means that we virtually have the power to become gods, but we are limited in our ability to access that power because of the sins that we continue to commit. One of them being the sexual sin, and the sexual sin being the root of all other sins. So Adam and Eve, when they ate from the tree of life, they were eating from their sexual vitality, right? They were essentially indulging their sexual energy and therefore sapping their nervous system. The tree of life represents the nervous system, right? So, or I could be wrong. It could be the tree of knowledge. I'm not sure. But the tree of knowledge and the tree of life represent our nervous system and our cardiovascular systems. I'm not 100% on which one is which anymore. It's been a little while since I've gone into this research. But this is a lot of very deep esoteric knowledge, so there's a lot to it. But the tree of life and the tree of knowledge represent our nervous and cardiovascular systems, the systems of our body that allow us to function and live as human beings. By eating from these trees, right, by eating from the tree of life, this means that we are indulging our life force. We are taking the fruit, right, and that fruit is what holds all of our nutrients, all of our vitality, all of our energy, all of our life force. Right? We eat from that fruit, and therefore we are eating and indulging our life force energy. Does this make sense? We are consuming and indulging into our life force energy, and this indulgence saps it, right? It drains it, but we are draining it for sake of pleasure, for sake of self-gratification, instead of using it for its intended purpose, right? Which was for us to evolve, for us to become the perfect vessel for our souls, and therefore allow ourselves to fully express our souls on this level, right, within this level of reality. But instead what we did was indulge it. We had this opportunity to become gods, to become like Elohim through sexual energy, or alchemy rather, through sexual magic. And instead we chose to become selfish with it, and we self-indulged, right? We self-gratified and we indulged in that force and that energy. And then as a result, as a punishment for doing so, we were cast from the spiritual realms, right? We lost our spiritual sight. We lost our ability to communicate with Elohim. We lost our ability to see within the spiritual realms of this world. And so we completely solidified ourselves into the physical. This isn't all bad, because part of this was intentional. We were meant to become fully solidified into the physical so that we could fully face these challenges and fully face ourselves in a way that we could overcome, right? In a way that we could become better and become stronger and actually realize the full potential of ourselves, of our souls, of our being, of our human being, and to fight to escape and overcome this world. So some of this was intentional, but the part that was unintentional was that humanity essentially became selfish, became self-focused, right? We became focused on self-gratification, on pleasure, and therefore we lost sight of the true purpose, right? We lost sight of that true purpose and we became obsessed with pleasure instead, right? And you'll notice if you've watched some of my videos, this is a trend, right? We choose we choose pleasure over purpose, and then this causes us to live in pain, live in suffering, live in all of this fighting, conflict, ego, this desire for power and control, right? All of this stemmed from this original sin, which was orgasm, right? Which was not sex itself, but orgasm. So reclaiming our power, right? We've gotten to the stage where we are now weakened by the fact that we have indulged ourselves for so long, right? This story is thousands of years old, right? This story started before Atlantis even was created, right? This story started before any of our historical record books have any track, right? So this is a version of humanity that was technologically and spiritually beyond anything we could ever perceive and comprehend, but also a version of humanity that started before the Bible, started before our history books tell us humanity started, right? Started before the Stone Age, right? The Stone Age was a reset. The Stone Age was humanity being reset again. But this is another story for another video. This is a version of humanity that was beyond anything we could comprehend and started before where we were even aware that humans have been here, right? So humans have been here longer than we thought. Why? Because we keep forgetting ourselves, right? Because we keep forgetting who we are. And as a result of forgetting who we are, we continue into this cycle of conflict, of fighting, desiring for power, desiring for sexual gratification, desiring for money, right? We keep falling back into this cycle because we don't have the opportunity to remember who we truly are. So, what our solution is to realize that there is more to us, there's more to our potential than we can even see right now. But how do we reclaim our power, right? We've been indulging this sin for hundreds of thousands of years as a species, and individually, you've probably been addicted to this sin for at least 3 to 5 years if you're younger, and if you're older, it could be more like 10 years, right? It could be 30 or 40 for some people, for some individuals, right? So we've been doing this for so long. How do we undo it? How do we reclaim our power, right? How do we overcome the lust that we feel? And we do so through sexual transmutation and semen retention. We do so through realizing that we are not perfect, through realizing that we are flawed, and being willing to see that, being willing to look at that, being willing to observe that, and to observe it fully. To be able to completely comprehend who we are, and then to commit ourselves to reaching that next level, commit ourselves to improving, commit ourselves to getting better, right? And so the next step is going to be semen retention, right? Now we can start semen retention. And so semen retention by not indulging the lust when you feel it, forces you to face it and overcome it, forces you to transform it, transmute it, use it for a higher purpose. Instead of being consumed by it, which is what we do when we indulge into the lust, instead of being consumed by it, we can actually consume it, right? We can start to, instead of indulging the energy, we can actually start to consume it, right? And what does this mean, right? What, I'm going to eat my fucking horniness? I'm going to eat the fact that I want to... Essentially, yes. Essentially, you are consuming the energy, right? You are taking that energy and you are allowing it to fuel your body, right? So consumption simply means absorption and then conversion, right? So think about food. We absorb or we eat our food. We swallow it. It sits in our stomach and it is transformed within our stomach into nutrients, into essential nutrients that we can then use for our body. The same, and then waste products are then cast aside. The same process happens with sexual energy. So instead of eating from the tree of life, right, we eat from the lust. We take that energy back for ourselves, right? Instead of continuing to lose that energy, waste that energy. And this is a little confusing because I use the reference of eating when it comes to the tree of life. But truly what we are meant to do, you can think of eating from the tree of life as taking the apple away from the tree, right? But if you leave it, the tree will be able to then reabsorb that nutrients and use it. So we are allowing our bodies to reabsorb that nutrients, reabsorb that energy and utilize it. So that would be what I consider to be consumption on this level. So consuming that energy, actually taking it in and using it for yourself instead of wasting it, instead of trying to get it out as soon as you feel it. This is the solution. And by doing so, you will essentially be forced to face all of your demons, all of your egos, all of the parts of yourselves that are holding you back, all of your lust, all of your envy, all of your greed, all of it, right? You'll be forced to face it. But by retaining the semen, you now have a powerful force that you can use to dissolve and break down and kill off all of these pieces of yourself, all of these egos, all of these different forms of selfishness, right? All of these different forms of desire for self-indulgence. We transform them into virtues, right? We transform them into virtues, into this highest expression of ourselves. We transform our egos into a complete version of ourselves, a complete identity that actually represents our soul on the fullest level, right? And so semen retention is our way back, right? Semen retention is our solution to our own failures in the past, is the solution to our being less than, right? Humanity consistently considers itself to be evil, to be disgusting, to be animalistic, to be broken. But this is not a flaw in our design. This is a flaw in our character. This is a flaw in how we execute ourselves on a day-to-day, right? This is a flaw in who we've become, in the choices that we've made, not our design as human beings. In fact, the flaw of human beings is their desire to continue to evolve, is their desire to always find ways to get better, to improve. And so this naturally means that we are not completely broken, simply flawed, but flawed by design, right? And so the flaws that we actually have are there by design. The pieces of us that are broken are there by creation, are there because of our own intentional use of our sexual energy, and even unintentional. At this point, it is unconscious. It is considered normal and natural to indulge the sexual energy. But this just simply is not true. It is not true that it is normal to continuously need to indulge this energy, right? What is normal is taking this energy and transmuting it, transforming ourselves, right? And so the next stage is rewiring. So as you retain, you will go through a process where you need to rewire, because your body, your brain, your very being is wired for release of this energy. And so now that you're suddenly holding it, because of how potent and powerful this energy is, it is very difficult to just hold it, right? And so your brain and body will need to go through a process of rewiring, reprogramming, recalibrating to be able to handle this level of energy, to be able to transmute this level of energy, and to be able to apply this level of energy. And so you will need to stick it out, basically, is all you have to do. You have to keep pushing through, even when it gets hard, even when it gets difficult, even when you start to question yourself in the process. You have to stick it out and stick through it in order to allow yourself to rewire. Because once your body rewires, once your brain is rewired, then it will become easier to retain. You will feel better retaining. I promise you, at a certain point, some of you may think I'm crazy, some of you may understand it, but at a certain point of retaining, release feels painful. At a certain point of retaining, at a certain point of transformation, at a certain point of rewiring your brain and body, it becomes painful to release, right? For me now, if I was to go and either through sex or masturbation, whatever it was, but if I was to go and have an orgasm, it would hurt. It would be painful, right? And some of you may understand this, but a lot of you won't. A lot of you won't understand it because you only feel the pleasure associated with the animalistic side of yourself, right? The animalistic part of you, which is only concerned with releasing, right? Why? Because it's reproduction. It is trying to put itself out into the world out of fear of loss, out of fear of needing to survive, right? You feel a need to multiply yourself and throw yourself into the world, ideally into a woman, right? That's why you're either watching porn or you're actually with a woman, right? But you feel this desire to orgasm to let yourself into a woman so a woman can reproduce you and recreate you so that you can survive and live longer. But at the same time, you yourself actually start to die when you release. When you release, you die because you are literally losing, expelling your very being, expelling your soul, expelling yourself, right? Your energy, your substance, right, is being expelled. And so at a certain point, this becomes painful because you start to tune more in with your being, with your soul, with who you truly are, rather than the animal, rather than the ego. The ego feels pleasure and the animal feels pleasure because it is releasing this energy, right? And release of this energy feels like a release of a burden of sorts, right? Because we no longer need to improve. We no longer need to evolve. We can actually feel content, right? But this is never a good thing to feel, is contentment. Fulfillment is different, but contentment is a dangerous place to be in. And so we need to intentionally avoid any type of contentment, right? And we feel content when we release because we now release the part of ourselves that is the fire that is burning at our feet, driving us to move forward, right? We release that. We put it out. We put out the fire, put out the flames. Everything feels nice and cool now, right? But that's because you're now dying. You're now settling into your current state, solidifying who you are, and allowing yourself to, because you won't grow anymore, die. Because if something isn't growing, it's dying. Nothing ever stays exactly as it is. Everything is always in motion. Everything is always moving. And so you're either going to grow or you're going to die. There's no in between. So I know I got a little bit dark there, but let me motivate you guys then. So what are the actual benefits of retaining? So if you get onto this journey and you start to master it, right? You start to learn transmutation. And I've made some, but I'm also going to make plenty more videos on sexual transmutation. And if you'd really like to learn sexual transmutation, go ahead and click my link in the description. But when you actually start to transmute sexual energy, when you actually start to evolve, right? And I do intentionally say the word evolve because the moment you begin to retain sexual energy, you will begin to evolve. And it may not feel like it at first, right? But you will begin to reach a state that is incomparable to who you were before, right? That is incomparable to most other people. I'm breathing heavy. This is a lot. This is some of the most information that I've ever had packed into one video. The length isn't even that long. I'm only at like 20 minutes, but like the amount of information packed into this video is pretty crazy. So yeah, what are the actual benefits, right? What are the actual benefits that you receive when you start to transmute your sexual energy, when you reach that next level in your evolution, right? Because it will be a struggle, and then something will click, right? And that is when you'll reach that next level. And obviously there will still be struggles beyond that point to reach the next one, but you will evolve, and therefore you will leave behind the old shell of who you were, the old shell of yourself, and you will become a true, complete, closer to complete version of yourself and who you are. But anyways, so what are the benefits that you receive when you do start to transmute sexual energy? And I say transmute over saying retention. Why? Because when we retain semen, when I say semen retention, you're thinking of what is considered to be the no-fap movement or the semen retention community, right? These groups of people who say that you need to keep streaks. Well, not even that you need to, but that you should keep a streak, that you should count the days, right? That you need to retain for this many days to get this benefit. That just simply isn't true or accurate. In one of my older videos, I used the reference that it is not about the days that you've retained, but about energy transmuted, right? So it doesn't matter how many actual days you've retained, it matters how much transmutation that has occurred in that many days, right? So how much effort you're actually putting into the sexual transmutation part of things. So what are the benefits? What are the actual benefits? We'll start with the physical benefits, right? So the actual physical, tangible benefits that you can see in your day-to-day life, right? So the first one that I'm going to talk about is increased energy, right? So the first thing that you're going to notice when you start to retain is that your energy will increase drastically, right? It will increase by a lot. It somewhat feels like you're on some type of steroids, or like you're on some, like you've just drank 1,000 milligrams of caffeine, but you never drink caffeine, right? Or a way to describe it, if you're more in tune with yourself, is it feels like the energy that's flowing through your body becomes amplified, right? You become amplified. You become multiplied 1,000-fold, right? And so this has many, many different benefits that apply to it, but the influx of sexual energy makes you feel very powerful, makes you feel very full. If this is something that resonates with you, consider how you feel now. You feel quite empty, quite drained, quite like something's missing, like something's off, something's lacking. This changes when you become, when you actually get onto semen retention. This completely changes because you feel full of your sexual energy, which is this part of yourself that you're missing, this part of yourself that you're looking for in fitness, in women, in money, right? This thing that you're looking for is actually just you. Is your energy, is your soul, is your power, but you are draining yourself of it on a daily basis. And it doesn't even have to be a daily basis. Some of you are doing it weekly, right? Some of you are doing it monthly, right? But any frequency is not just as bad as the other, but it is still going to be harmful. So if you're draining yourself on a regular basis, if it's a normal thing for you to be doing, then of course you're going to feel like something's missing. A part of you is missing. Because a part of you is missing, and a part of you is lacking. So the next piece is physical strength. Your physical strength will increase drastically, and your ability to increase that strength will also go up. So not only will your physical strength increase, you will be able to lift more and it will feel a lot easier, but you'll also be able to progress in that a lot faster. You'll be able to keep pushing yourself even further because your body now has the resources to grow and adapt and evolve, right? You have now built up the necessary resources to then go and build up your muscles, build up your body, build up your strength, right? This can go as far as skills too. If you play a sport, Your ability to learn the skills associated with that sport will increase. Your ability to focus when you're playing that sport will increase. Your ability to access flow state will increase, right? And so you basically just become a superhuman of sorts, a super athlete, if you would like to say it like that, right? You become a super athlete. Strength increases are natural. Strength increases feel like just effortless, right? That is your flow state, is putting more weight on the bar, right? This is because when you are primed for the state of progress, you actually become energized by the work itself. You become fueled by the work itself. And so for me, like when I'm doing really, really well with my transmutative practices and I'm on a good streak, I don't track my streaks, but when I know that I've been going for a very long time, right, I can feel like almost like every time I lift a new heaviest weight, it fuels me. It makes me more full of desire for the next level, right? So every time I go and I hit a new weight, it brings more energy into my body, more strength into my body, and a feeling of desire to go and then put another weight on the bar, right? So when you are primed for the state of growth, like I was saying, the work actually energizes you, right? Like when I go to the gym, I can throw on a weight on the bar and I can lift it. And by the end of lifting that weight, I will feel an influx of motivation, of energy, and it's almost like a boost that tells me to put on more weight. And then I push myself a little bit further. And I keep doing that. And you keep doing that on a regular basis, you will progress exponentially, right? You will progress at a very, very, very rapid rate. And you will progress to a level that is not comparable to a lot of other people, right? And you can apply this to anything in your life and everything in your life, right? Right now, for the last 4 weeks now, I've been applying this to business, right? I've been applying this to making content, and I hope it's evident that I've been making progress in my ability to make content, in the quality of my content, the quality of my videos, and in my ability to sit here on camera and speak to you guys, right? Obviously, I'm not saying I'm perfect, but I would at least like to believe that I've made significant progress. And so the next thing that I was going to mention is actually productivity. Your productivity itself increases at an exponential rate, right? So what it feels like is you feel tunnel vision, you feel focused, you feel like your energy is just flowing and moving instead of it being scattered, and you have to like force work, right? It feels natural to just flow and focus that energy into the work that you're doing. It feels natural to keep that going, right? You don't feel drained at the end of a work bout. You feel full, complete, fulfilled, maybe a little tired, maybe like your brain might hurt if you were thinking a lot and using your brain a lot, like me when I'm writing, for example. When I write for long periods of time, my brain can hurt a bit, but if you do the right things, take a couple breaths, give yourself a second to recover, eat some good food, you can very quickly just go right back into another bout of work and keep going, right? And this isn't something that will burn you out, because your body is primed and fueled in order to be able to do this, right? You are actually able to continue to progress, continue to make progress, to continue to be productive because of the fact that your body has this unlimited source of fuel, unlimited source of energy. And so your ability to get work done increases drastically, but not only your ability to actually get the work done, but your ability to then do more work after increases, right? To continue doing more work, even if you have your work scheduled for a certain amount of time, right? So if I had 4 hours a day of deep work and that was it, well, I'm not just talking about this type of work, right? I could do my 4 hours of deep work and then I could go into a meditation, and then I could go and exercise and go to the gym, and then I could go and read a book, right? But I can continuously do these things and I don't feel like I'm being drained as I go. In fact, the longer I go, the more energy I feel like I have, right? And then obviously this changes when it's time for bed. This is another one of the physical benefits that is less talked about, but is actually very prominent, is your sleep. Your sleep increases drastically. Your quality of sleep, your ability to fall asleep fast and stay asleep, your ability to wake up in the morning feeling energized, feeling rested, feeling rejuvenated. I can basically go right up until about 8 p.m. Sometimes even 7, but usually 7 to 8 p.m. And then I crash out, and not in like a, oh, I crash, like I feel like shit now, but like a, oh yeah, no, it's time to sleep, right? And then you just naturally, you can go to sleep and fall asleep, and it feels effortless, right? You don't need any magic sleep tactics or tips and tricks, right? You can use them. I'm sure they're great, but you don't need any of that. You can just very easily, naturally just fall asleep. And the quality of your sleep is much, much better too. And part of this ability to fall asleep is based on the fact that you're using the energy. If you are retaining your seed and that's all you're doing, and you're not applying it somewhere, like in fitness, in business, in work, at school, like if you don't have an outlet, you won't receive this benefit. It'll actually be harder for you to fall asleep at a certain point. I think I'd say anywhere from like 14 to 21 days usually is when I experience this, but yeah, anywhere from about 14 to 21 days, I'll usually experience basically just not being able to fall asleep because I have so much energy. And this only happens to me if I'm not doing enough things throughout the day, right? So this has nothing to do with semen retention itself, but rather not doing enough throughout the day, not using this energy. And so that goes into another point, is that you can't really practice semen retention unless you have other outlets. And obviously, I wouldn't suggest not practicing semen retention because you don't have other outlets, but expect yourself to need other outlets. Expect yourself to need to take on new hobbies, new goals, and just to like work more and work out more if you're going to practice this, just because this is the natural state of humans. This is why you end up needing to work more when you're on semen retention. You return back to your natural full state. So you do need to work. So yes, it's the natural state of humans, but also just because you have this influx of energy, it needs a proper outlet. Otherwise, it's going to find its outlet in fueling your egos, fueling your current habits, your current state. And this can be a very difficult cycle to get into, but obviously, like, there are ways out of it, but it's very difficult to get through this. Once you have sexually charged a part of yourself, it's very, very hard to destroy it without more sexual energy to then destroy it with. Anyways, so moving on to the mental benefits. The mental benefits. So the first one and the most prominent is your mental clarity, right? You are much clearer. Your brain works better. There's no more brain fog. This is because your brain is getting an influx of nutrition and hydration from the CSF, right? The CSF is made and fueled by the semen. And so when we're losing it, we drain the CSF of its essential and vital nutrients and vitamins. And then the brain, as a result, is sapped of these essential vitamins and nutrients. So by holding the seed, we support the creation of healthy CSF. And this allows our brains to be properly hydrated and given the proper amount of nutrients. So this results in the removal of the brain fog that is pretty typical for most people nowadays. Everybody is pretty much used to brain fog, and so we don't talk about it much. But brain fog is not normal, and you will notice the difference very quickly. The difference between being in brain fog and having a clear mind is huge, right? So you will absolutely notice that difference. And the next thing is your memory. Your memory will increase. You'll be able to remember more, and you'll be able to remember it better, and you'll be able to access memories a lot easier, which is a nice little tool because, obviously there's no use in remembering something if you can't access it. But this makes it easier to recall information. This makes it easier to, for example, when I'm making these videos, right? I'm basically teaching you guys off of memory. I'm basically teaching you guys off of what I've learned yesterday. And this doesn't literally mean 24 hours ago. This means like I'm taking what I've learned in the past and trying to recall it in my mind and present it to you guys that way. And the way I do that is by reminding myself through bullet points on my script, right? But if I wasn't to be able to remember all of the information that I need to access to teach you guys the thing I'm teaching you, whatever that may be, then that's a very big problem. And so my memory is a huge factor in my ability to teach, right? So it's a very important piece for me to be able to teach you guys, for me to be able to learn, right? I could be on the field trying to apply something that I've learned before, and I can't apply it because I can't remember it, right? This makes it ineffective. This makes the learning useless, right? So memory is a very cool benefit, in my opinion, but it's also a very important benefit. And it's very prominent too. You can access your memories, like consciously. You can go in and access memories. You can tell your brain what you need and it will give it to you. And so this is another thing, is your brain is actually more receptive because you have learned control over it by retaining the semen. The brain is more receptive to you. It becomes a tool instead of the master, which is a very big shift and a very big change that a lot of you will need to get used to, right? Because you can get to a point where you can just command your brain. You can just tell it to do something and it does it, right? And not a lot of people are used to this. A lot of people would be like, what? You can just tell your brain to do things and it does it? So I'll tell a personal story about this last year. This was before I fell off of everything, and I was like really on my shit, and everything was flowing, everything was moving. I was putting the business together. I was building up the business. I was really just coming up with the ideas and formulating what it was going to be into my head. I was training a lot. I was doing intermittent fasting, and my diet was great. My diet was on point. This was just a very good period of my life, and semen retention was one of the things that I was on top of. And my transmutation, I was doing my pranayama every single day. And one of the benefits for this was, at a certain point, I just remembered realizing like, hey, my brain is like focused on these random things that aren't important, right? My brain was focused on, it might have been lust at the time when I was thinking about this, like in the moment when I had realized it was distracted. It might have been distracted by lust. It might have been distracted by some sort of pleasure, maybe like smoking weed or something, some sort of distraction. And I identified that and I was like, nope, no, let me shift it. And what I did was I consciously basically just told my brain, so from now on, focus your thoughts on how I can become a better athlete and how I can build a business. Right? And then I forgot about it. I left it alone. I went back to the present moment and I just moved on with my day. My mind, the gears kept turning in my mind, and eventually it reshaped itself to then focus more on how I can increase my athleticism, how I can become a better athlete, and then how I can make money. And throughout that day, I kept getting random ideas just thrown at me about how I can become a better athlete and how I can make more money. And so this is a cool little benefit, but the key is that this unlocks your ability to command and control the brain fully, and that allows it to do its job in the proper way. Instead of it trying to constantly control you, right, so that it can stay comfortable, it's in this state where it's used to just flowing through the change, right? And so that allows it to then be the tool that it's meant to be. It's broken through its resistance barrier that happens as a result of you constantly indulging sexually and constantly allowing it to control you. You've broken that barrier, and now it's willing to adapt, willing to change, and therefore you have the control to manipulate that. You have the ability to then say, hey, do this in this way, and your brain will respond properly. So the next piece is spiritual benefits. So the main spiritual benefit is that we get to return to the Garden of Eden, right? So we were cast from the higher realms because of our sexual sin, because of our indulgence. As we start to return, as we start to transmute this energy, and as we start to master ourselves again, we begin to unlock these abilities. We begin to return to this state, right? So one of the first things you'll experience is that you start to unlock some of your spiritual abilities, right? The first one of these is going to be your ability to perceive, feel, and even manipulate subtle energies and subtle energy fields, right? So subtle energies are the underlying pieces of reality. So reality itself is the physical. This is energy solidified. Energy fluid is one of the layers of reality underneath this one, or within this one rather, right? So this fluidity of energy, this flow of energy is constant. It's everywhere. And it is also within you and your body. And so the first way we feel this is by the flow of sexual energy through our bodies. Because as we start to retain it, it needs a new outlet. And so its new outlet is through the body. It circulates itself and flows through your body. And then it's accessible when you are then, let's say, working out. It's in the body. It's flowing through the nervous system, flowing through the bloodstream even in some senses. And so therefore you have access to it and you can utilize it when you need it. So this can be with work, this can be with workouts, this can be wherever. But it's circulating, and so it's more accessible. And that circulation of energy, you can begin to feel it. You can begin to perceive it, right? And then as you begin to perceive it, then you can also begin to control it. You can begin to manipulate it. You can begin to direct this flow of energy in a certain direction. So through the consciousness, through your awareness, through your focus, you can then concentrate and funnel this energy into whatever you're looking to pursue and progress in. The next is that you begin to have deeper and more direct communication with God. So God himself, God, right, is the higher being, is the state of, is essentially, right, your highest self, you could say, right? But God is essentially the higher mind speaking down to you, right? It is the higher mind guiding you throughout life. So think about a game that you're playing third person, right? First person perspective is the little character. Third person perspective is you as the player. This is somewhat how the higher and lower mind works, right? And so as the higher mind is commanding you and directing you through the keyboard and the mouse, telling you where to go, guiding you and telling you exactly where to go. Now, think of how much of a problem it would be if all of a sudden your little game character stopped listening to you, stopped listening to those commands. Let's say there was a problem with the connection, right? Your keyboard wasn't properly connected to your computer, and those signals aren't traveling to the character. So the character is not moving, right? There's no communication between the keyboard and the buttons you press and the game and the character on the screen. Because of this lost communication, the character then just kind of wanders around and does its own thing. What we are doing by starting to retain and starting to realize ourselves again, starting to master ourselves again, is we are essentially reestablishing the connection between our higher mind, keyboard and mouse, and ourselves, the character. So the next spiritual benefit is more of a metaphysical benefit, but actually your magnetic field and your energy fields will increase in potency and power. And your ability to perceive and control these fields will also increase. Your magnetism will increase. Your magnetic field is the heart's field. The heart's field is the magnetic field, and its potency will increase, and therefore its ability to attract certain things to you, but also repel other things. So based on your frequency, based on how you resonate, your personal alignment, that will determine what experiences you attract and what experiences you repel. So one key to this is that when we are trying to manifest, when we are trying to achieve our goals, we are essentially trying to attract a certain reality to us, right? We are trying to bring a certain reality to us. We are trying to align to a certain reality, and therefore it will be attracted to us. And we are trying to repel other realities, other experiences, right? And so this is evident in the fact that you remove any habits that don't align with your goals when you have one, and add in the habits that will align you to those goals. Why? Because by doing the right types of habits, you automatically attract that reality to you easier than if you were doing all of the wrong habits. Does this make sense? If you're constantly doing all the wrong habits, your alignment therefore repels the exact reality you're looking to achieve. And the opposite is true if you're doing the good habits. So our magnetic field will increase in potency, meaning we can more easily attract the things we want more readily and more quickly as well. So that is all of the benefits. Now we will get into personal transformation / evolution. So semen retention and human evolution. Human evolution has essentially been halted. It has been stopped, right? We have been evolving, but in a very slow way and in a very negative direction, right? We still naturally progress, but we are going in a negative direction. We are going downhill. We are going towards our destruction and our detriment, right? Because of the fact that we are continuously indulging, we don't actually have the means for us to truly evolve. We don't have the means for us to truly ascend and truly transform ourselves. Semen retention itself is the very means by which we can actually evolve, right? Semen itself contains millions, if not billions, of different sperm cells, all of which contain the genetic coding to create an entire new human being, an entirely new human being. And so by not wasting this and instead utilizing it for ourselves, we can actually take all of this potential and transform ourselves 1 billion times over. We can become anew 1 billion times over, right? And so we can become an entirely new version of ourselves. We can essentially achieve any state, any desire that we have, we could go and become, right? Or we can go and become the person who can have that desire. Because we contain the power within us to then transform, to evolve. But without this, we limit ourselves in our ability to transform. We solidify ourselves into this physical reality. And so how to actually level up through semen retention? This is a matter of taking the experiences that you have, right? Taking all of the negative, all of the positive ones, and using them to realize and see yourself on a deeper level, comprehend yourself on a deeper level, but then also pursue the next level. Right? So this is what self-improvement is trying to get to the next level, is trying to improve and become better, right? And so semen retention is the perfect tool, is the perfect foundational piece to this process, because with semen retention in place, we will continue to make progress. We will continue to naturally be making progress. So how do we actually utilize semen retention in a way that we can make the most possible progress? This is through combining self-improvement and semen retention. This is by retaining the seed, and then as things come up, as parts of you come up, as your desires, as your pains come up, we then find ways to become better, find ways to improve, find ways to transform and become the next best version of ourselves. And we just do this continuously throughout the rest of our lives, right? We do this for the rest of the time we're alive on planet Earth. Because this is naturally what we're meant to do. We're meant to continue to evolve, continue to reach that next level. And so one thing that you can do is write everything down. Write down the things you'd like to achieve and focus on them while you're on this bout of semen retention, right? Focus on them, and by focusing on them, you will then charge yourself up to being able to go achieve them. And then you can go about actually pursuing. So the next piece is sexual transmutation, and this is arguably the most important thing in this entire video, is sexual transmutation. The true power of the sexual force. So the sexual force is the creative force, the creative energy behind all of reality. It created everything that is around us, that is us, right? Created all the animals, all human beings, all of the levels of consciousness that actually guide and are the structure of this reality, right? So you could think of it as God, right? God himself was created through the sexual energy. Everything in life, in reality, was created by sexual energy, right? That is the origin state of all energy, all being, all life. And so this force, this power being so valuable, the fact that we even have access to it at the level that we do is a very beautiful gift. But a gift that we as humans often waste. And the point of this video is to teach you to transmute this energy instead of waste it. Because if we begin to transmute it, we unlock our very potential to be creative beings, to actually bring into reality the things that we envision, right? This is what we were designed for. This is what we were created for, to have a vision up here and bring it into reality using the physical body, right? But we are wasting this gift by wasting our sexual energy, because that sexual energy is by nature the very creative force that we use in order to bring something into reality. So the way we harness this power is first through semen retention, but then through learning to control and direct it the other direction. So instead of it being directed downwards and outwards, we need to learn how to direct it inwards and upwards, right? Up through the chakra system, from the root to the sacral, to the solar plexus, to the heart, to the throat, to the third eye, to eventually the crown, and through the crown. We need to direct it and guide it upwards, and the way we allow it to move upwards is by transmuting it. Through transmutation of the sexual energy, it becomes more of a subtle force, which means it's less dense, but more potent. It becomes more of a subtle force, and that allows it to ascend up the spinal column, up the chakra system, and eventually to the brain and the head, right? And obviously also the highest chakras as well, if you're looking energetically. But transmutation itself is the process of taking that sexual energy and redirecting it, taking that sexual energy and transforming it into a new desire, right? Through, instead of going into it, instead of tensing, instead of squeezing, relaxing and releasing and allowing it to be fully felt and then transformed into its highest state, right? Transforming the sexual desire to a desire for purpose and business, right? And work and exercise and reading and learning. So I'll go over a couple, before I end, I'm just going to go over a few techniques for how you can actually go about transmuting the sexual energy. So the first one is pranayama. The first and most important one is pranayama. Pranayama is essentially a foundational piece, a foundational exercise to transmuting the sexual energy, right? It by itself is a transmutative practice, right? It by itself transmutes the sexual energy. And so pranayama is a type of breath work that is specific to sexual energy, that transmutes the sexual energy, that actively transmutes sexual energy. Right, so there's that, and you can look into that on your own. I will have plenty of videos out in the future on pranayama. I'll go over all of my techniques. The simplest one that you can start to do is microcosmic orbit, where you essentially take a deep breath inwards and imagine. Eventually you'll be able to feel it, but at first you'll want to imagine the energy rising from the bottom of your spinal column all the way up to the top of your head and then to the roof of your mouth. And then exhale and allow it to move from this part of your mouth down into the middle stomach area, right? So right under the heart. If you know where your chakras are, it would be right in the solar plexus. So this just looks like this, right? Bringing the energy up and allowing it to sink back down. That's the easiest one. That's the one you could start right now. And the next thing is meditation. Meditation is another cornerstone piece that you need to have in place in order to transmute the sexual energy, because this allows you to have consciousness, to have awareness within your mind, within your body, within the sensations in your body, and therefore you'll be able to perceive this energy, comprehend this energy before it actually comes up as lust, right? You'll feel the energy itself before it becomes lust, before your mind attaches to it, your ego attaches to it and tries to drive you towards lust. So meditation is another cornerstone piece. And the next thing is just having activities in the day to do, right? Having work to do, having a goal, having a mission, having a business, having something to work towards, right? And then the last piece is exercise. Exercise is essential. If you are not exercising, you will not be able to properly transmute this energy. So you need to incorporate some type of exercise into your routine before you can move forward. Exercise, meditation, pranayama, and then a purposeful goal. So that is all that I have for you guys, right? So if you guys would like me to coach you on this specifically, or if you would like me to coach you on how to incorporate self-improvement, how to beat the bad habits and start to fully incorporate the better habits, right? If you'd like to transform your life through self-improvement, go ahead and click that top and the second link in the description. But aside from that, if you guys want to see more videos on self-improvement, if you want to learn more about self-improvement, go ahead and click that subscribe button. Other than that, I'm out of here. Peace.